Hello everyone, my name is Dean Kenley. I was fortunate enough in the summer of 2001 to have been invited to go purse seining aboard the Eastern Fisher. She's an 85-foot steel herring trawler that fishes out of Digby and is captained by Darren Surratt and his brother First Mate Guy Surratt. The video you're about to see is a documentary of my experience. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. It was a warm summer's evening when we headed out, and the seas were calm, lucky for me. We were heading for Advocate Harbor, about a 5-hour steam from Digby. It's located at the northern tip of the Bay of Fundy. There are about 14 boats in the fleet that fish out of Digby, and they all head out roughly the same time, because there is a certain time that is best suited to catch herring, and that's just after dusk. The boats in the fleet range from 85 to 110 feet, and can hold from 90 to 110 tons of herring each. The Eastern Fisher can hold 95 tons. Yes, folks, that's 190,000 pounds of herring per boat. How much fish have you eaten lately? Once we hit the herring grounds, the motor is throttled down to a slow crawl, or trawl, as the fishers say. All the boats begin trawling, trying to find the school of herring in their fish finders. All the captains and crew know each other. They communicate very closely. They have to. They depend on each other, as you'll see. Once a large school is located on the fish finder, the school appears as a large red blob. The captain positions his boat just so and sounds the horn. This tells the skiff captain he's going to be released. The skiff is a small tug that pulls the net out. The skiff takes the 3/4 mile long netting and begins to make a huge circle while the captain navigates the boat in the opposite direction. When they meet, the herring are encircled. Once encircled, powerful lights are turned on the boat, but not before, or they'll scare the fish away. The herring travel in humongous schools, sometimes a mile wide and up to 2 miles long. The other boats rush to the vicinity of the first siding and try to drop their nets close to ours. Everyone's circling and dropping their nets. It's almost like the rings of an Olympic symbol. Once the skiff makes a full circle, he passes off the purse line to the first mate. The purse line pulls the bottom of the net closed. It's the first mate's job to make sure the net is secured and nothing escapes. Then the winch is engaged and the hauling into the gigantic net is begun. On the Eastern Fisher, there are 6 crewmen: the captain, first mate, a skiff captain, and 3 deckhands. They all know their jobs and responsibilities. They should. Most have been doing it all their lives. The hauling in of the netting takes 3 of the crew just to repile it properly. There's an exact science to this. It has to be laid perfectly so it will flow back out again without a hitch on the next setting, which could be as early as an hour or so. The captain and first mate tend to the incoming lines, shackles, and buoys, while they assess the catch, trying to determine how much they've caught and looking for potential dangers. Sharks, whales, dolphins, and even seals can create problems. A large shark or whale can tear the net apart and release the whole catch. The fish stay down deep at first, trying to stay as far away from the lights and noises as possible. So it takes a while before you start to see them. When they do become visible, they can be 100 feet wide and as much as 60 feet deep. Soon the fish become visible, and the captain and first mate can give an estimate, give or take a few thousand pounds. Once they are pulled in close to the boat, the pump is lowered into the net to begin pumping the herring onto the boat. While pumping, the net is constantly being reeled in, keeping the fish at the top. The crew keep a close eye on the catch, weeding out unwanted species and watching for problems. The pump is a huge suction hose. It sucks the herring up through a trough and into a hopper before being placed in the hold. The inside walls of the trough are rough with a screen-like surface which rubs the scales off the sides of the fish. The scales then fall into a separate trough which filters the water and scales into a large mesh bag. These scales, or pearl essence, are valuable and are sold for the manufacturing of automotive paint, cosmetic jewelry, lip gloss, nail polish, and other glittery garment accessories. The ladies watching this are probably wearing fish scales right now. Shark is blurred across the deck, and everyone takes notice. The first mate spotted it and says it's 8 to 9 feet. They've got to get it out quick because it can cause damage to the net. Then once on deck, they have to put it down because it can injure the crew. The shark will not go to waste. It'll be sold to processors who sell the meat to local restaurants. It's a real bonus for the crew. Let's listen to Guy explain why it's only the female herring that are valuable.
Yeah, this is a herring.
That's a herring.
Yeah, this is a big herring.
So that's pretty good size for...
Yeah, that is.
Now can you tell if that's a male or female?
Female.
Female, yeah?
Yeah. You can tell by the eggs inside. That's the roe.
That's the eggs, is it?
That's the eggs.
And that's the valuable part?
Yeah, when it matures.
Yeah.
Setting up?
Yeah, set her up.
And what, the Japanese like
Japanese,
that stuff?
yeah, Japanese buy this. They just eat the roe. They don't buy it when it's hard like this.
Yeah.
It's got to be mature.
Yeah.
And when it's mature, it's yellow.
Oh, yeah.
But we like it hard.
The pumper is just about finished emptying out the net, and the captain tells me we have about 70 tons in this catch. I ask, is that enough for tonight, or do we set again? Like to have another 20 to 25 tons more, the captain blurts. Everyone hears him and knows what it means. We're going trawling again. Then a crack comes across our CB. It's the captain of the Maria Lynn Anita. How you guys doing, he asks. We have about 70 tons. Need another 20 or 25. The captain says, come on over. He asks how much extra they've got. Oh, 25, 30 tons. So over to the Maria Lynn Anita we head. She's a 110-foot seiner. They caught 140 tons in one catch, and they can only hold 110. So they call over a friend. That's us, the Eastern Fisher. We pull up alongside. The crew is there waiting to help us pump out their surplus. What an easy job. Just pull up along someone else who caught too much and pump them into our hold. Life is good. There'll be some beer drinking tonight. Everybody's happy. With our hold full, we steam back to Digby. At the wharf, the herring are pumped onto waiting trucks, then transported to processing plants where the herring are sorted and the valuable roe is extracted. The discarded fish bodies are used for fertilizer, bait, and fish meal, which is distributed all across the country. I have found my experience aboard the Eastern Fisher very exciting and fascinating. I hope you feel the same way too.
Well, here we are. Welcome to Digby, and welcome to the Lady Vanessa. I'd like to show you around a bit. I've fished these waters for a good number of years, so I figure I'm a bit of a local expert. So let me show you around the fishing hereabouts. You see these fellers? They're fishermen. Their fathers before them and their fathers too been fishermen. And all their mothers been fishermen's wives and fishermen's mothers. And that's often the toughest life of all. Know what I mean? Like all them other generations, these fellers are getting their gear ship-shape for the trip to the fishing grounds. Fishing round here really got started after the Loyalists came here during the American War of Independence, about 1783. Of course, folks was working these waters long before that. The local Indians, the Micmacs, camped these shores in the summer every year and fished the basin long before anybody else even knew there was a lot of land this far west. Once the gear's all set, these fellers steam out to their fishing grounds. Round here we got three main types of fishing, three that keeps most of us busy. We got your lobstering, we got your scalloping, of course Digby's got the best tasting scallops in the world, and we got your ground fishing, you know, the cod, the pollock, the haddock, and the flounder. Most of us work in those. Different types of fishing needs different types of boats. So here's a look-see. This here's a scallop dragger. See the shape? A good-sized boat she is too. About a 54-footer. This one's a lobster boat, smaller and lower. She's a 34-footer. This beauty's a fish dragger, after them ground fish I was telling you about. She's a 55-foot wooden boat. Come along now aboard the Nashelle Nova, the fish dragger. This here is Captain Brock Longmire. He's here doing things in the wheelhouse. Meet his crew, Dave Sanford and Doug Van Tassel. They're getting the net ready to set. Captain Brock's planning his course. Navigation's a complicated business, let me tell you. The crew here is putting the net out. All them round things are floats. Of course, they keep the net floating so it doesn't crumple on the sea floor. This thing's called a door. There's one on each side of the boat. They settle to the bottom and keep the mouth of the net open so as it can gobble up them fish. Now the captain gives his boat a little steam and the net plays out behind and settles to the bottom. That little signal Doug gave is an example of the good teamwork that's necessary to avoid some sticky situations. The pull of that equipment can be dangerous. Ain't that a sight? Yes, sir, that bay's a beauty, ain't she? Now, here's something we're pretty privileged to see. A fish-eye view of what goes on under the water. The doors drag along the bottom, wide apart, so to keep the net open. See it here? The net picks up whatever's in its path. So here's what they're looking for. This here's a haddock, cod, pollock. This flatfish is a flounder, all good eating too. Well, now look at that. Caught us some fish. What you see here is called a trouser trawl. See them two legs? The ends of the net, where the fish end up, is called a cod in. What you've got here is a net with a 4-inch knotless mash for mature cod and haddock. It's made so the little fish and smaller species can get out. See them go? You know, fishing's quite scientific nowadays. Captain Brock has this plotter. He can program his dragger course right into it, so the autopilot will take the boat at the right speed and on course. Amazing, ain't it? This here is his radar. It's a great help in the fog, let me tell you. This red and blue thing is a sounder. It will tell you how deep the bottom is and what the floor is like down there. Of course, it ain't all work.
Same old fare. Salt cotton, 10 bits.
You gotta take time out to eat. They're out for 4 days at a time, so a little relaxing is necessary. A tow takes about 4 hours, so after you clean up and get the work done with the fish after one tow, you have up to 2 hours to rest. Emergency repairs. You gotta be independent and self-reliant when you're a fisherman. No big repairman around out here. Now we're ready for the result of the tow. The net's being hauled in, and these hard-working men are waiting to see what the sea has for them this time. When the net comes up, it might look a real mess on that spindle, but believe me, that net is guided on there just so. Ain't got time to sort out no snurls next tow. Could be dangerous if the crew weren't so good at what they do. The crew opens the bottom of the net, and out they come. Just look at them, ain't they beauties? Come on, fellers, get that net out. Getting ready for a second tow. Here you got your cod and flat flounder. Well, look at there, they got himself a lobster. Of course, he's got to go back, safe for now. Next, you got to sort the fish out, sending some species back to maybe serve as food for that lobster. These are scalpings. Ugly, aren't they? The fellers put the fish in the hole and ice them down, just a-waiting for your table. The deck has to be cleaned before the next tow comes aboard. She's washed down and left a-waiting. Captain Brock says he lands about 30,000 pounds of fish a week. He says he likes the challenge of outthinking the fish. This is the way of life he likes the most, he says. And there ain't many fishermen would tell you different. Fishermen are a loyal bunch, loyal to this life, their families, and each other. They gotta be smart to survive nowadays. It ain't just the sea and the fish you gotta deal with. You gotta bring all the regulations and bureaucrats on board too. this lobster boat, the Mr. Matthew. Craig here is filling the bait bags that go into the trap. Lobsters are like a lot of folks. They like to be coaxed. They seem to like smelly things too. Junior uses fat herring and mackerel that's been corned in salt water and let set for a month. When they get to their traps, they gaff the line and hook her up to the winch to be brought in. Each lobsterman's buoy has his own markings and colors so he can identify them. He trusts other lobstermen not to mix up his buoys with theirs. That's what it's like here. You got a multi-million-dollar industry that still succeeds on an honor system. Let Junior show you some of his catch.
White bar.
Junior and Craig work from 5:30 in the morning to 6 in the evening, hauling about 400 traps each day. The lobster season in our area runs from the end of November to May 31st. Those claws you see are dangerous. The thick one's called a crusher. Guess you can figure out what he does with that one. The other one's a pincher. The claws are a mighty good defense, but they're pretty good at grabbing and crushing food too. But they can crush any person's finger, so you don't want to get in the way as they crawl along the bottom. Junior says a lobster takes 7 years to reach adult size, and they gain about a quarter a pound each year they live. You know them things live for 70 to 80 years? Ain't that something? My, maybe there's one old feller down there was born the same day I was. Just think about it. When lobsters come aboard, they have to be banded with heavy elastic bands. That's what you see here. Too dangerous otherwise. The wooden traps like you've been seeing, and the wire ones like this. The wire ones cost about $100 each. The wooden one's around 20 if you do them up yourself. A legal lobster has to be 3 3/16 inch on the back shell. Anything less than that and he's got to go back. Probably see him in a year or two. Once your trap's all cleaned out, they rebait and sent back for another catch. Watch what happens under the water. Look, see that lobster? Amazing, ain't it? Looks kind of fierce, doesn't he? Tough-looking creatures. I always wondered how something so ugly could taste so good. Nature's way, I suppose. Junior says the strangest thing he caught in one of his traps was a soda can and a blue lobster. Now ain't that something? Let Junior tell you a thing or two.
Look at the lobsters. Oh, it's mackerel. Winter mackerel. Nice lobster. 7 or 8 pounds, that lobster. That's a male. Has a narrow tail. That's how I tell the width of their tail. female lobsters. Oh, third whiter again. Female savager too. Yeah, they are. Thousands and thousands of lobsters. For the future.
Thanks, Junior. Aboard the Lakeside number 2 is Captain Ridge Hazelton. He's invited us aboard to see what goes on. Here's his crew: Bob Nickel in front and Dwayne Handspiker in the beard. They're busy shocking scallops. Fast, ain't they? See how he gaffs that cable and hooks her on the stern? That's so she don't drift to the side. Some folks think scallops just lay around the ocean floor. But looky here, active little creatures, aren't they? They propel themselves by forcing water out of their shells, by opening and closing them. Something, ain't it? The boat pulls the drag along the bottom, and it scoops up the scallops in its way. A lot of other stuff, too, like rocks, seaweed, you know, other stuff. Of course, scallops only swim for the first couple of years. After that, they find a permanent home, sometimes on the back of other scallops, wherever they find the best food source, and they stay there for the rest of their lives, 13 to 14 years. The scallop is a bivalve mollusk, like clams, oysters, mussels, two shells, but it's the only one that can swim. Skittiest little creatures, aren't they? Topside again, the crew winches the drag up over the lakeside, number 2. And drops them on the dumping table. They haul her up and empty the catch. They gotta pick through all that stuff they dragged up and pick out the scallop. That horn sound you heard was a signal from the captain to get out of the way while they dropped the drags. Captain Hazelton pitches in to help. Fishermen are good people. They know how important it is to cooperate and help. Vanity ain't got no place in this hard work. They gotta shock the scallop. Shocking. Well, shucking if you ain't from here. is separating the pasty part from the rest. Just you watch how it's done. They make it look so easy, but it ain't. Try it sometime. Maybe Bob can show us his technique. Tossing the shells over the side is a bit of recycling. Scallops lay their eggs in them shells. Let Captain Hazelton tell you a thing or two.
You cut the flat shell off. This rim here, all these little dots are eyes. Sure, good thing it don't need glasses. This is the gonad, which is the spawn, and this orange spawn is the female. This black part over here is the stomach of the animal. And down in here you will find his mouth, which is down in this area. And you pick that off when you shock him, and that the animal itself all gets thrown away, and all you save is the meat, and which is the muscle that opens and closes the shell. And then if you really want it choice, you just eat that. Don't bother to cook it, spoil it. Okay, you open it again. That one had a little hake in it. You'll find the odd one that has a little small fish in them. Just a few. Now, that you never find one that the fish is dead. They're just in there. They just swim in there. And this is a male because the gonad in this is white, and this is a melt that when the eggs are laid, that the male just lays the melt and it goes over top of the eggs. And other than that, they're exactly alike. And they're just as good to eat as the female. Choice.
Once your shocking's done, the scallops need to be cleaned. You know you can tell a scallop's age by the rings. Like a tree, the scallop rings is on the shelves. Just ask one of the Lady Vanessa's crew, and they'll gladly tell you some amazing things about the scallop. You can scallop fish year-round. Folks have been doing this fishery in the area since the late 1800s, Captain Hazelton says. In Annapolis Basin here only since the 1920s. Guess that makes scalloping our youngest main fishery. A workday for these men is 19 hours. Some bigger crews work around the clock. These scallop fishermen make about 30 tows a day, with an average of 2 or 3 bushels per tow. A tow takes about 20 minutes and catches about 5% of the scallops in its path. The cold waters of the North Atlantic round here makes our scallops particularly delicious. They come in all sizes. About 20 scallops to the pound is the most tasty. Men like the captains and the crews you have met are tough, independent as mules, proud and hard working. The sea and fishing is a way of life for them, and a way of life they wouldn't trade for nothing. The sea can be a tough taskmaster, but they wouldn't desert it. She's theirs and they're hers. Take a walk along our wharf. One thing about a fisherman, he's friendly, and he sure likes it when you show you're interested in what he does. Guess when you think about it, they ain't much different than most. for coming aboard the Lady Vanessa. Enjoy your stay. I'm going to go up to the Fundy for a cup of tea. My good friend Carl, the chef at the Fundy, is preparing some baked lobsters and scallops. See you later.